Well, time traveler, stock your backpack with your favorite hygiene essentials because we're living in the best time ever for cleanliness. Don't forget your toothpaste. Some ancient civilizations used a mixture of gum arabic and soot to keep their teeth clean. That or a mix of salt, mint, iris flower, and pepper. One dentist tried this combo to see how it works. Let's just say it didn't feel good on the gums. About 5,000 years ago, people in Egypt and Greece would fray a small twig to clean in between their teeth. A few centuries later, soap appeared. Yay! It was a mix of boiled fat and ash. Oh. In such hot climates, people would wash their bodies up to 4 times a day using soda ash to get rid of dirt. A big leap forward when ancient Romans invented the first house water supply. It wasn't perfect by far. The water was often stagnant because it was stored in large tanks. But Romans are better known for their bathhouses. Bathing, though, wasn't just to keep clean. It was a social activity. Business people would seal their deals in a lavish bath. Oh yeah, they were famous for their public restrooms too. Toilets made from stone slabs, with holes in the center, all lined up together with no privacy dividers. People would come there to do their business and do their business. To make cleanup easier, the Romans would fix a sponge at the end of a stick. The sponge was usually soaked in a container filled with vinegar or salty water, and they'd share it amongst themselves. Ew. This community sponge wasn't the first thing ever used for cleanup. Depending on the region, ancient people reached for stones, seashells, and even sticks. Ow! The first record of paper being used for hygienic purposes didn't come along until the 6th century in China. Already by the 14th century, China was producing 10 million packages of toilet paper a year. Get this, the ancient Romans cleaned their ears with Q-tips, only theirs were made of metal. They also removed body hair with tweezers that look pretty much identical to the ones we have today. Other civilizations would use threads for that purpose, a hair-removing technique still found in salons today. Hey, if it ain't broke. Ancient Greeks took freezing cold baths. They'd only stay in there for a few minutes, and it was mostly for aesthetic reasons, not cleanliness. Later on, they switched to hot baths. To clean their bodies, they'd use blocks of sand, nice scrub, clay, ashes, and even pumice, that's volcanic rock. Another option was to put oil all over their bodies and then scrape it off, along with the dirt it caught, with a special metal tool. Bathhouses in ancient China were a lot like today's spas. Besides baths, they also provided nail trimming, massages, and even tea with snacks. Instead of toothpaste, they didn't have it back then. They'd gnaw on small aromatic twigs to freshen up the breath. The Chinese were the first to invent the actual toothbrush in the 15th century. It was made of wild boar bristles attached to a bamboo stick. Those boar hair bristles wouldn't get replaced with nylon until 1938. In medieval Britain, a time in human history not exactly revered for good hygiene, people would rinse their mouth with water or a mix of vinegar and mint. Herbal infusions and floral water were an option too. They cleaned the teeth with a cloth by just rubbing the dirt off. Medieval toilets weren't much different from what they had in ancient Rome, a stone slab or a wood plank with a hole in the center. But at least you had some privacy now. And we finally moved on from sticks and stones to grass and hay for cleanup. Those loos didn't exactly smell like roses. Open windows were a must. In some castles, they'd cover the floor with flowers and fragrant herbs to mask the odor. And no need to flush. The commodes in medieval castles looked more like elevators, but there was only one thing going one direction in that chute. Look out below. In the 16th century, bathing wasn't considered important, not even for royalty, let alone commoners. Queen Elizabeth I would bathe only once a month. Her successor, James I, supposedly never bathed a day in his whole life. But at the very end of this century, we did get the invention of flush toilets. It takes over 250 years for them to become commonplace. People in 17th century France found an easy way to escape bathing. The trick was to change their linen shirts often to keep their bodies fresh. They also believed linen could absorb toxins from the body. Fast forward to the 1800s, and the world finally gets shampoo. Whew! Though people in India had been using it since ancient times. They'd massage their scalps with an infusion of soap berries, gooseberry, hibiscus, and lots of other hair-friendly herbs. They call this process shampoo, and in the early 19th century, it made its way across the globe. Bathing in the Victorian era wasn't pleasant at all. It used to be extremely cold, especially in winter. If you rubbed a cloth soaked in warm water on your feet, face, pits, and other strategically important bits at least once a day, it was considered enough. Doing laundry was even more of a chore in Victorian times. They'd soak stained clothes for half an hour in milk or rub butter on it, depending on the type of stain. Then they'd let it all soak overnight in a mixture of ammonium and washing soda. They'd get up at least 2 hours early the following laundry day, around 4 a.m. or even earlier, with a lot of work ahead of them. You take a big tub full of steaming hot soapy water and something called a dolly. That acted as the agitator your modern-day washer has. Over in America, people still weren't fans of bathing in the 19th century. They believed that regular baths could lead to weakness and bad health. But the main problem then was the lack of indoor plumbing. The culture of regular bathing emerged there in the mid-19th century with the development of water supply systems. The 1850s are also around the time when Americans got their bathtubs and toilet paper. But back then, TP was called medicated paper for the water closet. It was sold in large packages of 500 sheets and cost 50 cents, about $15 by today's rate. Which only begs the question, what did Americans use to clean up before the mid-19th century? Well, leaves, newspapers, magazines, and corn cobs. True story. But the real hygiene boom came with regular hand washing, thanks to the discovery of germs. Before that, people thought contagion spread with bad air. Victorians kept their windows closed to keep this bad air from getting in. In the mid to late 19th century, hand washing was something only doctors and surgeons would do. It would take over 100 years to become commonplace among the public. That's the 1980s. TP used to come in an assortment of different colors, but today there's practically no colored toilet paper in the US at all. Dyeing, here we mean coloring, not the stoppage of heartbeats, involves chemical colorants that may not be good for that particular area. And the whole colorful production turned out to be too pricey. To dye the paper, you first have to bleach it. So today, we mainly have plain old white TP. Toothpaste changed a lot just within the last century, too. If you brushed your teeth with early 20th century toothpaste, it'd leave a weird soapy aftertaste in your mouth. Yep, it contained soap up until the 1940s. It made the paste smooth, but it's since been replaced with sodium lauryl sulfate, better known as SLS. With the 20th century, we got yet another innovation in personal hygiene: wet wipes. Yahoo! Most people today believe they were invented for the sole purpose of cleaning yourself in the bathroom. But that's not true. The first products of this kind, created in the 50s, were made to keep your hands clean on the go.